From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at Noon, streaming now.
Early voting is now over. Now election officials across Indiana get ready for the final votes to be cast on Election Day tomorrow. We'll have an in-depth look at the massive number of Hoosiers who decided to vote early coming up here on the News at Noon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Lauren Casey. Todd Clausen is joining me from his home studio this midday. Todd, it was a cool start to our morning, but what can we expect as we head out for our lunch hour?
Yeah, in fact, Lauren, it was the coldest morning we have seen since mid-April here across central Indiana. But with the sunshine out there, temperatures have been moderating nicely across central Indiana, and they'll continue to do so not only today, but in the coming days as well. That's even better news as we push our way towards the end of the week. The view from IMS back towards downtown Indianapolis here at this noon hour shows not a cloud in the sky. And with all that sunshine that we have out there, temperatures are starting to moderate up into the 40s in all locations. Right at 40 in Peru. It's 43, though, in Indianapolis. 43 as well as you make your way into the Bloomington area. We had some wind chills earlier this morning, but they're basically about what the temperatures are. There are a few locations where we're factoring in a bit of a chill down into the 30s, so you still need to bundle up if you're going to be out and about throughout the day today. But the one thing you don't have to worry about is any precipitation. We have none of that in the forecast. That's staying either to our north or off to our east. So enjoy this afternoon with the sunshine. Remember, sunset is earlier now with the time change over the weekend. It's a little after 5 o'clock. Temperatures will be in the 40s this afternoon and then low 40s by 8 p.m. But I mentioned the warming trend as 70s are in our future. We'll let you know when they arrive. Lauren, coming up in just a few minutes.
Todd, thank you. This midday, police are still looking for an overnight shooting downtown that left a security guard dead. The police were just called around 4 o'clock this morning to East New York Street between Alabama and New Jersey streets. Officers there say the victim was working as a security guard and was dead from gunshot wounds by the time they got to the scene. Police tell us the security guard was not carrying a gun. Detectives say they are still working with businesses in the area to find surveillance video of what happened. Also this midday, an investigation is underway after a police shooting left a man dead in Seymour. Police say they were called out to investigate a theft at a Walmart store. Officers say they spotted the suspect walking near a Taco Bell. They say the suspect had a gun, prompting police to open fire. The suspect later died at a hospital. The shooting victim's identity has not been released. And new this midday, a man was jailed in Clinton County after police say he assaulted workers at the polls during early voting. Officers say that a poll worker turned away 48-year-old Douglas Earl on Saturday because he did not have a photo ID with him. Instead of leaving, the sheriff's deputies say that Earl wandered around voting booths and then assaulted 2 poll workers who tried to get him to leave. Earl was eventually arrested by deputies and a state conservation officer who were at the scene. He's charged with battery and disorderly conduct. Well, the busiest early voting season in the state's history is now officially over. Early voting came to an end just moments ago, although voting will continue for anyone who got in line before noon. Hamilton County was one of the most active early voting counties in our state this year. As you can see, some voters hustled in to get their votes in ahead of Election Day. Back here in Marion County, early voting got a boost over the weekend with the use of Lucas Oil Stadium as a voting site. The Marion County Clerk's office says almost 7,500 voters used the site Saturday and Sunday. The lines at the stadium moved more quickly than lines at other early voting sites since they had more voting machines in use. Lucas Oil and Bankers Life Fieldhouse will both be used as vote centers for Election Day tomorrow. Well, we won't get final early voting numbers until later, but these are the numbers at the end of the day as of Sunday. More than 1.75 million Hoosiers have already voted. That's almost 2/3 of the total voter turnout from the 2016 presidential election year. Almost 500,000 Hoosiers have voted by mail so far this year. That's also at a record pace. Well, most of the attention this election season is on the race for the White House, along with the governor's race here in the state of Indiana. But there's also races and issues that may be flying under the radar. So what may surprise us once the results roll in? We took that question to our political insiders, Democrat Jamar Cobb-Denard and conservative commentator Abdul Hakim Shabazz.
Well, I think one of the big things we'll be taking a look at is the new voters, so to speak, the people who haven't voted before, because that's something that the Democrats have been pushing for, kind of get those new voters, those infrequent voters to show up. That's what I'm going to be kind of taking a look at throughout the course of the election cycle. How many new voters showed up? Did they vote Democratic, or did they vote Republican, or did some of them even vote Libertarian because of Donald Rainwater and the governor's race? But for me, I'm looking at those new voters. This is their first time at the polling place, or they haven't voted in a while.
A couple other things, and I agree with Abdul, the new voters will make a difference in Tuesday's results. The other thing that we have here are within those new voters, we have a lot of Latinos and African Americans who didn't vote in 2016 who are voting this year, and all of those that turned 18 over the course of the past 4 years reportedly are leaning more left than they are right, and we'll see what those results do. Now, the other thing that's going to be a big play on Tuesday are the actual estimates of who won. Even in just Marion County, over 150,000 people have already voted across the country. They're saying that 10 million early votes have been cast. And in Marion County alone, out of 150,000 votes that have been early cast or absentee, they're saying at the election board they can only count 40,000 a day. That means we won't really know who won up to maybe even a week after the end of Election Day.
Thank you to our political insiders. The downtown Indianapolis main post office will offer again drive-through voters to drop off their ballots. Starting at 3 this afternoon, you can hand your ballot directly to a postal employee at 125 West South Street. That site will be open until 10 p.m. tonight. Employees then date stamp the ballot and send it to be sorted and prepared to send to the appropriate election board.
We're doing this because we want to make sure that every voter has an opportunity to get their ballot in. We know a lot of people waited to the last minute for various reasons. Maybe they were just, trying to make their decision, and we want to make sure that we're here for them.
Well, the ballots will be delivered in time to be counted. Tomorrow on Election Day, the Postal Service will offer the drive-through from 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. It's important to note, though, tomorrow's service, it's only for Marion County voters. Keep that in mind. A reminder, we'll have live coverage of everything happening tomorrow on Election Day live here on WRTV. That includes a look at all the races, the key races, plus we'll have analysis and results as soon as they come in. So look for us on the WRTV app on your streaming devices, including Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, and Android TV. The newest COVID-19 numbers are in from the state health department. Indiana once again has surpassed 3,000 new cases in just one day. The State Department of Health reports 3,080 new positive tests statewide. That brings us to more than 185,000 overall since the pandemic began. 26 additional deaths were also reported. That brings the state to 4,150 COVID-19 related deaths since the pandemic began. The positive test rate took a big jump as well. It's now up to 15.9% for unique individuals. Well, they are moving in to help stop the spread. Next, we'll tell you how Indiana's citizen soldiers are joining in the state's battle against the coronavirus. Todd.
And as you walk out the door here this afternoon, temperatures are on the cool side. The good news is the sun is shining, but going forward in this forecast, you can see the warmer temperatures off to our west. They will be working their way in here over the coming days. So we go from very cold like it was this morning to almost a spring-like feel as we get towards the end of the week. More on that coming up when when the news at noon continues right here on WRTV.
The Indiana National Guard is now on duty at nursing homes across the state. More than 400 soldiers are working to help stop the spread of COVID-19 at our long-term care facilities. Guard members first gathered at Camp Atterbury to learn everything from registration and testing to infection control procedures and visitation protocol on Friday. Residents of nursing homes make up nearly 60% of the state's COVID-19 deaths. Nursing homes have also struggled with staffing shortages, which is why the state is sending in the National Guard to help.
We want to help the staff through things like wellness checks at entrance points, taking temperatures, monitoring compliance for CDC guidelines, helping to sanitize compartments, those kinds of things that will actually allow the staff to focus their energy and their effort on our most vulnerable population.
We're here to help people, so we have to understand the people we're helping, the situations they're in, so that we can help them to the best of our abilities and support the CDC.
Guard members will initially work in 133 long-term care facilities. Eventually, more than 1,300 members of the Guard will be inside all of the state's 534 nursing homes. So you may have heard some claims that we should know who won election by tomorrow night. Next, we'll take an in-depth look at why that isn't true here in Indiana or anywhere else in the country. Let's take a live look outside right now. You can see clear blue skies ahead here. This is our tower camera view to the west. We'll get a check of our forecast for the rest of the day and, of course, Election Day with Todd Clausen when we come back right here on the News at Noon. Stick around. Welcome back. So you may have heard in the news some claims that we should know who has won the race for the White House and all the other races by tomorrow night on Election Day. Our Ray Steele tells us if you believe that, you instead need to get ready for what could be a long, long wait.
You may have heard this recently.
We should know the result of the election on November 3rd. That's the way it's been.
That is simply 100% not true. It never has been true. Election rules are different in every state. That's because of federalism. When the country was founded, some powers were delegated to the states, partly to avoid a new monarchy since we were just leaving one, and partly because the federal government was dealing with free states and slave states and did not want to meddle in individual state laws. One of the powers delegated to the states was election law. Here in Indiana, absentee ballots must arrive at your election office no later than noon on Election Day. Those offices start releasing results soon after the polls close. But while counting votes moves more quickly these days, with most Hoosiers voting electronically, counting ballots received in the mail, plus all those early votes that were cast this year, will take some time, as one of our political insiders pointed out.
In Marion County alone, out of 150,000 votes that have been early cast or absentee, they're saying at the election board they can only count 40,000 a day. That means we won't really know who won up to maybe even a week after the end of Election Day.
In other states, it will take even longer. The state getting most of the attention is Pennsylvania. There, an absentee ballot is counted as long as it's postmarked by Election Day and received in an election office up to 3 days afterward. They can legally do that because that's what Pennsylvania state law says. Other states give you even more time to return a ballot in the mail, again with an Election Day postmark. 5 states, Colorado, Utah, Washington, Oregon, and Hawaii, do all of their voting by mail, and part of California does too. That means we may not know their final vote totals for up to a week or more. The bottom line, the notion that we'll know who won the races on election night has never, ever been true. And given all that's happened in 2020, is definitely not true this year. Working for you, Ray Steele, WRTV.
Ray, thank you. Let's take a turn to our forecast. A lot of folks may be heading back home from casting their ballots this morning, Todd, or maybe they're gearing up for tomorrow. What do they need to know in terms of what they should wear?
Yeah, you know, tomorrow, Election Day, is going to start off a little chilly, but by the afternoon, we're looking at beautiful conditions, Lauren, with lots of sunshine and probably temperatures in the 60s. Now, if you were out early this morning, it was really, really cold. We got down into the 20s widespread across the area, and wind chills were in the teens. The good news is, with sunshine, you can still warm things up, and that's what we've been doing here throughout the course of the morning and now into the early afternoon hours. There's the view with all the sunshine, not a cloud in the sky as you look east past downtown Indianapolis. 45 in Muncie, 43 in Indianapolis, 45 in Shelbyville. This pocket of cool air that you see here is going to continue to push off towards the east, and it's going to head towards New England, and the warmer temperatures off to the west. Those are what is going to work in throughout the course of the next couple days. So today, we're still going to stay in the 40s in a lot of locations, some 50s off to the south and to the west, but our average high is 59 degrees. So we're still about 10 degrees below normal for the day today. But today's probably our last day that we will be below normal. The clouds and the snow showers, they are well off to our north and to our east, and we have plenty of clear skies off to the west. So this evening, if you have plans, you're just going to have to bundle up a little bit. Keep in mind the sunset is now a lot earlier with the time change, 5:41 here this evening, and we're looking at temperatures in the low 40s. Tomorrow morning, not as cold as you start your election Election Day. We'll be sitting in the mid to upper 30s, so about 10 degrees warmer tomorrow. And with that warmer start and all the sunshine, it's going to be a warmer finish. So if you're heading out 6 a.m. right when the polls start, you're still in the 30s. If you're heading out by the noon hour, mid-50s. If you're heading out during the course of the lunch hour, temperatures will be climbing into the low 60s. And then as the polls close at 6 p.m., the temperature of 59 degrees. But no threat of any precipitation tomorrow. Great news for anybody that does have to stand in line. Now, going forward beyond Election Day, how about this? We'll be in the mid to upper 60s for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with mostly sunny skies as well. So it's going to be really a beautiful stretch of weather for this first week of November, because look what happens by the time we get to the end of the week and into the weekend. We're looking at Saturday and Sunday with high temperatures in the low 70s. So that's going to put us nearly 10 to almost 14 degrees above normal by the end of the week. So overall, just kind of focus on the warming trend here and the potential for no rain. That's the good news. So it's a bright week for us. And most importantly, for Election Day tomorrow, Lauren, no weather-related delays are expected with all that sunshine and temperatures very seasonable.
All right. Sounds good, Todd. Thank you. Well, we told you earlier that it might be a while before all of the votes are officially counted. But when you tune into WRTV's election coverage tomorrow night, you'll notice that ABC will project candidates to win certain states. Stephanie Liebergen with our partners at Newsy tells us how news organizations decide when to make that call.
How does the news call races before all the votes are counted?
They call races because they have teams of political experts, experts in demographics, experts in polling, experts in electoral history that can look at the results and see the trends.
In the U.S., there are two primary organizations that project winners, the Associated Press and the National Election Pool for Medicine Research. Major media outlets also have their own race-calling teams. Exit polls that ask people how they voted after casting their ballot play a key role in making those projections. And both the AP and Edison are taking steps to account for all the votes that will come in before November 3rd.
We're going to be devoting more resources to exit polling people at early voting centers in states where a large proportion of vote is done at early voting centers before Election Day. And then we'll be doing more interviews by telephone of people who mail in their ballots.
News outlets rely on phrases like too early to call or too close to call to report on results before a winner can be projected.
We're not going to be able to call every race on election night. We're not even going to have votes for every race in some states on election night.
And it's important to remember that the vote tallies on election night might be skewed, depending on what type of ballots states tabulate first.
So dramatic differences between how election day vote reports and how by-mail vote reports is something we're all aware of. And we're going to be a lot more cautious when it comes to projecting races because of those differences.
Stephanie Liebergen, Newsy, Miami.
All right, well, they had already been waiting to vote for a while, and then one of nature's creatures made sure their wait was a whole lot longer. We'll show you why you'll be glad you weren't voting in one Nebraska city coming up next. Stick around. You're watching the news at noon right here on WRTV. Well, if you had to wait in a long line to vote, it could have been a whole lot worse. Out in Douglas County, Nebraska over the weekend, power was knocked out to a polling place, not by a storm, but because of a squirrel. Officials report a squirrel created a mess in the power lines and it took the lights out in the building. Some people had already waited hours in that long line to cast their ballots when this all happened, so they decided to leave. Others stayed until the power was restored. What a mess. Todd, thankfully no weather-related problems for tomorrow. We can't make any promises about squirrels, however.
Yeah, I can't forecast what the squirrels do here across the area, but yeah, tomorrow is going to be a real nice day for us on Election Day. In fact, it's going to be pretty quiet across most of the country, which is good news. 62 degrees, your high temperature tomorrow with mostly sunny skies, and then a nice warming trend as well. Should be 68 by Friday, and then high temperature Saturday and Sunday going to be in the low 70s, and overnight lows going to be warmer as well, Lauren. This morning we were in the 20s. We probably don't get below freezing now for at least the next 7 to 10 days.
Todd, thank you, and thanks for making WRTV your choice for news. Come back and join us for the news at 5. Have a great day.